before we get into maybe what that might be about, how do you feel about the differences between writing things for short stories versus a novel? Like, are there any kind of, obviously there's a big difference in length, of course, but as
Mm.
far as plotting, story structure, how you go about things, what's kind of some differences there?
Well, in general, I'm a bit of a pantser. I'm not a plotter. Um, so I think which works easier with short stories because there's not as much to plot. And generally with short stories, I think my system is you don't start at the start of a story. You start right in the action and it's quite a snippet. Um, which is which I find quite um I'm not going to say I don't want to say easy, but like it comes quite naturally because part of my pantser brain is that I'll think of a scene and I need to write it straight away, even if it's for like a book I'm going to write 10 years in, because I've got my checklist of the books I'm going to write. You know what I mean? I've got like my 20
Sure.
book plan or whatever.
Yeah.
If I think of a scene, I need to write it out properly straight away and then put it to the side for that. Which works nicely for writing short stories because I'll have a quick inspiration. I can sit down. I find trains, I don't know, I sit down on a train and I just smash out a poem or a story. Like that's I don't know, I just really lock in on public transport. So it's kind of, and then I can just edit through that. But that same process means writing a novel takes me so long
Yeah.
because I don't have that sort of. I'm trying now because I'm really trying to lock in and finish this novel. I've tried plotting it out better now, but that's after years of pantsing my way through this one and like
Hmm.
random scenes and like putting them together. But I think with short stories you can afford to just be like, I have this cool scene, I'm going to write it, and then you can edit it and make it work in a bigger context, you know. Um but yeah, so
Yeah, and I think short stories are I think for me it's like the longer something is, the more you might want to think about doing at least a little bit of outlining. So
yeah.
like yeah, because I've have a few short stories that I've kind of written or have little ideas about, and it's like just I most of the time it's kind of in the world that I'm already writing my books in, so I just kind of think of like, oh, this would be a cool scene, and I just kind of write it down
Yeah.
mostly to not forget it. And maybe I'll use it in something, but it's definitely easier to pants those because you kind of like they kind of the whole thing comes to you at one time. At least it does for me,
Yeah.
where I'm just
Yeah.
like I kind of see this whole thing from beginning to end
Yeah.
already, and so you're just kind of transcribing it almost. Whereas writing a book like I'm working through mine, and you just have to keep going. Like it's just this kind of it's a relentless kind of just keep marching forward. Word by
Yeah.
word.
And plot holes and outline like character development and all this, whereas in a short story you can get like a nice little burst of this, even if in your head it is a bigger grand scheme, but it's just like a quick burst of something. Yeah, whereas yeah, with novels there's so much room. There's just so many more things you need to be pedantic about when writing a novel. There's so many more things to look at.
Yeah. You mentioned you have a long list of ideas. Do you find that sometimes the amount of ideas you have kind of get in the way of progress because you kind of want to? What I do is I kind of do that where I'm like, I have all these ideas and then I get motivated on one that I really shouldn't work on because I'm
Yeah.
trying to finish the other one. So do you find that to be a struggle, or do you have a kind of a way to work through that stuff?
So I think so this particular work in progress has taken me years, and precisely because I would get distracted with my million other projects. Um,
Mhm.
I have I handwrite all my first drafts, and when I have new ideas, I always handwrite. It's just so I've got like a of notebooks, which is just overflowing constantly. Um,
Yeah.
but I think this year I've really I'm trying to be very disciplined and prioritizing. I'm finishing this book. I'm giving myself a deadline. And the other things, if I have good ideas for them, because ideas will still pop up and I'll still think about them, I'll jot it down quickly and put it away. But I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm not going to write a whole chapter. I'm not going to, start world building and doing all of the fun things for that. I need to really, really focus on this one because I want this finished by the end of this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you definitely have to do it's kind of like when you think of ideas for tasks, like you still have to go write the task down so you don't forget it, because
Yeah.
otherwise you'll just be trying to remember it while you're trying to do the other thing. Yeah, but then it's like you got to make sure to pull yourself away and be like, okay, I wrote down the idea, I kind of started it, so it's over there.
Yeah.
Then I got to pull away.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, do you know what I find those voice recordings? I have so many like ridiculous voice recordings to myself. I'll like wake up in the middle of the night and like have a 5 minute little podcast to myself. And then
Yeah,
it's like, okay, the idea exists. I can come back to it. Yeah, move on.
yeah. Yeah, I use like my notes app. I've got a bunch of ideas in there, and I've got a document that like a Pages Apple Pages document that's
Yeah.
just like everything.